Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering 6 essential elements of a ghostwriter agreement. These elements, if you follow them, could save you lots of stress, time, and even money. So you really want to pay attention to these tips. By the end of this video, you will learn the importance of documenting the payment process and the progress of the book, detailing how you credit your ghostwriter, and even the ability to walk away if the partnership isn't working out. And stay tuned until the end of the video for a free resource I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. When you decide you want to work with a ghostwriter, it's so important for you to put everything in writing. Put together a contract, document it. I know how easy it is to just think of having a handshake agreement or putting some simple terms in the email, but you really want to have a contract in place just in case. You could have the best relationship possible, but this is all about just in case. If you think about working with a ghostwriter, it could take 6, 12, 18 months to finish your book. That's a long time, and a lot of things could go right or wrong during that process, so you want to be covered either way. The first thing you need to document in your contract is payment. What does payment look like? What does the payment structure look like? Typically, when I work with an author and we put together a contract, payment will be broken up into milestones. That could be 5 milestones. Maybe there's one payment up front to get the project started, and then one for sample chapter 25%, 50%, 75%, the full draft. And those payments are broken up and documented in the contract. Progress is another element that you want to put into the contract. What does progress look like? What does the full draft look like? Are you focusing on 60,000 words? Are you focusing on 40,000 words? What is a full draft? You want to put that in writing because otherwise there could be a discrepancy. There could be a misunderstanding. Maybe the ghostwriter is only writing to 30,000 words and you want 60,000 words. That's a problem. Now you created a potential scope creep issue or an issue of frustration. You don't want any frustration or pain points. You want to make this as easy as possible. So think about what you want your ghostwriter to accomplish. You know, if you have a contract in place for the siding on your house or plumbing, you want to have specific details. What does a successful project look like? And put that into writing. Copyrights is another big one. Who owns the copyright for the words? Oftentimes when I work with an author on their book, they own the copyright. The words that I write for them are legally theirs. They own those words and they can do with them as they wish. But you want to put that in writing. You don't want to have any issues of what if a ghostwriter tries to take the words as their own? What if they try to pass them off as their own book? This is your book and you want to make sure that you own the copyright, that this is specifically yours. There could also be circumstances where you share the copyright. But either way, you want to put that in writing and make it clear in the very early going of the project. Credit's a big one. Credit is super important, especially with ghostwriting. It makes it so much easier to have credit in writing at the very beginning of this process. When I've ghostwritten books, it's been super valuable for me to understand what my credit looks like. Typically, I leave it up to the author, but there are other times when issues pop up. I remember one of my early projects and I was contractually obligated to be credited in the acknowledgments. And when the author had written the first draft of the acknowledgments, they had credited their dogs and my name was missing somehow. So I actually had to go back and, hey, based on my contract, I'm supposed to be credited in the acknowledgments, and I eventually was. There's basically with cover credit, basically the author with ghostwriter. That's pretty common. Sometimes it's in the acknowledgments, special thanks to so-and-so for helping me put the book together. Other times it's not at all. And I myself as a ghostwriter, I don't mind either way. I really don't. If somebody wants to credit me or not, I'm completely fine with it. I leave it up to them. But at the same time, I want to have that in writing so it's very clear. And you want that too, so there's not any questions or confusion later. A major one is confidentiality. When people work with ghostwriters, there's really 2 tracks. There's people who publicize it and don't mind mentioning that they worked with somebody. There's other people who don't want anybody to know that they worked with a ghostwriter. I've worked on both kinds of projects as a ghostwriter, but you want to put that in writing because ultimately ghostwriters can use projects that they've worked on to promote themselves. You know, when somebody goes to my website and sees testimonials from different authors I've worked with, it's important to be able to put that down. It's important to have that, because otherwise it's very difficult to know what I've done if I'm not getting credit for it. A ghostwriter by nature is in the background, is hidden. They're the person behind the scenes doing the writing. And it's a difficult balance to understand what projects I can promote and talk about and what projects I can't. But I make sure to have that in writing at the very beginning of the process, and it just makes it easier. It makes it easier for me knowing I can promote this or I can't promote it, and I'm okay with that either way. The last essential thing that you need in your contract with your ghostwriter is termination. I know it's not easy to think about it when you're going into the partnership. You're so excited. What could go wrong? This is going to be great. But what if? What if you decide that this isn't the right fit? What if the ghostwriter decides that this project isn't right for them either? You want both parties to be able to walk away as needed and potentially get paid for the work that they've completed. And that way, if you're working with a ghostwriter and you decide that their work isn't up to the standard that you have, and you've tried everything you can to sort it out and it's still not working, you can then pay them and walk away without any guilt, remorse, or issues. Like, it's just peace of mind. On the flip side of that, there should be mechanisms in place to ensure that the ghostwriter is getting paid for the work that they've completed. I've heard horror stories about projects where a ghostwriter will complete most of the work, get fired, and then not get paid. That's a big problem. So there needs to be fairness on both sides, but you want to be covered just in case, and if you decide it's not working out, you want that clause in the contract so you can walk away and move forward and find somebody else to work with. There's a lot of different things to consider when you think about working with a ghostwriter that aren't just involved with the contract. There's so many other details, tips, and I definitely recommend that you watch the next video. It's called How to Hire the Perfect Ghostwriter for Your Book. In that video, I cover where to find ghostwriters, how to interview them to make sure that they're the right fit, and even setting a fair rate for the work. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.